Hello, Jenny Lewis. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm obviously feeling really nervous. I feel like I'm going to start blushing, but I'll get over that in a minute. I'll be fine.
Do you know it's weird because I'm so excited to talk to you today that I was getting a bit nervous myself, like about what I was going to say to you and like what kind of discussion we are going to have. But I'm in it. I'm excited.
It doesn't take you long.
Just really long. I think
I just have to forget there's anyone else listening. I'm fine if it's just you. Maybe if someone's turned up, it's fine.
Guys, we have Jenny Lewis with us, portrait photographer. She's incredible. I'm going to go into more about why she's incredible. But just to give you a bit of a notice, if you have any questions for Jenny at all as we speak, please put them in the comment box. And what I'll do is I'll bring it up for Jenny to kind of have a look at, and we'll answer it live for you, okay? Once again, I'm excited to talk to Jenny because I actually met Jenny just last year virtually because we're in this really cool group about, photographers who publish books and things like that. And she's published 2 already, and she's about to, actually the third one's already ready and it's in pre-orders right now. So you can go to jennylewis.net and go to books and find out how you can pre-order that through Hoxton Mini Press. Hi Rob, how you doing? Rob just said hi, Jenny. Hi,
there's someone here, yay! Because I can't see anyone.
Got some eyes on us already, which is great.
Oh, hi.
But I just want to tell you a little bit about So Jenny is, how do I describe Jenny? I just describe her as tenacious, passionate, talented. She told me, she was telling us about how she created her first book, One Day Young. And it was just like, I always describe it as almost like guerrilla style, like guerrilla warfare type thing. Just whatever will work, you use to get your shots, you get your subjects, and you just set people at ease so quickly. You've done a lot of commercial work. You worked in America. You've been shortlisted for things like, the Portrait of Britain. I think the Taylor Wessing as well, was it?
Yeah, Taylor Wessing.
Yeah, Taylor Wessing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the one that's in the latest book.
The
Taylor Wessing one is going to be in the book that's coming out.
Okay, and the new book is called 100 Years. 100 Years. And that book basically it details like inhabitants of Hackney and people who basically you've got people from age 0 to 100. You've done portraits of those people, and I called it in the description a mammoth task because it's taken you 5 years to get to this point where it's finished.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. It's a lot of people, and it sort of was ticking along nicely alongside other work. So it wasn't something that I was 100% focused on. But also I've realized that I actually quite like things moving quite slowly. Projects and book projects evolving at sort of a natural pace. I could have got a casting person in and I could have kind of had a list of the 100 people and just worked through it and done 2 or 3 a day and really cracked on. But I kind of like to go do someone's portrait, spend a few hours with them, have a conversation, see if they want to nominate somebody of a different age, and then just wander past someone else and think, oh God, they'd be great. I'd like to spend some time with them. And I just work at this very sort of quite slow pace. I mean, it's not that slow. I'm quite manic in a way, actually, but. Yeah, it's sort of, with the projects, I don't want to know the end result. I don't want to have everything organized and be strategic about it. I just want it to sort of be very gradual and let my mind wander a little bit and go, oh yeah, I wonder who lives in that. And just very gradually fill in the puzzle pieces.
Well, that's interesting because we're going to go into your approach a little bit. I mean, what I want to discuss is how did you get started in photography? First of all, that's the default question.
I mean, I was always very interested in photography. I had a camera when I was about 17 and got really into photography. I think it's because my boyfriend at the time went and did a degree in photography. I decided that I was definitely not going to do photography because I didn't want to see him. And I probably should have done a degree in photography, but instead I did a degree in fine art painting. And it wasn't until I'd finished that degree when I was trying to think, well, what do I do now with an art degree? And I just thought, well, maybe I'll do photography. It was just a bit like, you know, just a very kind of flippant, maybe I'll do that. And my first job was working in Metro as developing films. So I was developing hundreds of films a day and contacting them. And then my sort of passion for photography came back, and it felt like a way to continue making images, but more realistic than painting. It felt like a job. It felt like something I could do and survive in London if I worked hard at it. So it was sort of, yeah, that's how I got into it. Really, I just wasn't a good enough painter.
Yeah, okay, that's really good. Yeah, so basically, like, your boyfriend was doing it, and you're just like, I'm not going to copy him. I'm just going to do like fine art instead.
Yeah, exactly.
But you ended up finding
stubborn twist. But in a way, maybe it was quite, I don't know, you can't regret anything. I mean, it would have been lovely to do a photography degree, but maybe not being taught is in a way an advantage, or just a way of looking at it differently. And maybe I look at things in a different way than if I had have been taught down that road. I don't know. You can't tell, can you? You've only got what you've got. But I think I've always felt quite comfortable photographing people. It's not something that made me feel sort of out of my depth in a way. It always felt quite natural to hold a camera, and yeah, I don't know. And I just like really enjoy it. You know, I loved working in the lab. I loved being surrounded by photography. I found it so inspiring. I loved assisting people and learning that way, and that sort of, again, quite slow, methodical apprenticeship by working with people for years and sort of understanding what it's all about, and then very, very slowly understanding my own style and improving photography. You know, that's been a journey. It's taken a long time. I mean, I've been photographing people for 25 years, 26 years. It's a long time.
Yeah.
And I very much am a portrait photographer. You know, that's what I do. I don't really do landscapes or still lives or anything else. You know, it's people. I'm interested in people. That's what I like to photograph. But actually, maybe no more. I've done enough now. Maybe I should I think look at the sea or something.
I don't think you ever get enough. When you're a portrait photographer, I don't think you ever get enough. I think you always want to meet another person that's really fascinating, with a fascinating story, and capture their portrait somehow, you know?
Yeah. I do wonder though, like, have I pigeonholed myself? Why don't I even try and, you know, I don't know, look at something else. But maybe that will be something I'll experiment with now, you know, in this kind of interval of just finishing a really long project. And, you know, to be honest, there's absolutely seems to be, you know, the phone is not ringing for portraits. So while there's no work and while that project is finished, I don't know, maybe I will start to think about something a bit more abstract. Who knows?
Who knows? I mean, the thing is, I think it's still unwritten right now what you could potentially do. Like,
yeah,
you know.
I'm just interested. I'm interested to see what's next. Yeah, but what usually happens is I say, after both books, or the first two books, I was like, never again. I'm not doing it again. They take so long. I get so addicted. It's so obsessive. I'm always like, I'm not doing it again. And then before I know it, some bloody idea will sprout up, grab hold, get its roots in, and I can't seem to let go of it. So probably that will happen. Or maybe I'm a 3-book wonder, and that's it.
No, I very much doubt you're a 3-book wonder, Jenny. Like, I think you're already planning the next one. You're not telling us, but I think you're already planning the next one.
I think I'm going in a different direction. I don't know what I'm doing. I've worked alone for a long time, and I think I'm be really excited to like collaborate. And I really enjoyed the writing on this project, so I'm interested in the writing. I really enjoyed the interviews, and I'm interested in what I could do with all those voices and sound installations. And I'm interested in moving the photographs from a flat surface into an installation of things you can move around. I don't know, my mind's all over the place, to be honest. With lots of ideas buzzing around. So it feels it feels quite exciting. Like we had a quick chat yesterday, and from all of that fear and sort of the abyss of nothing, you know, with the pandemic in the last 11 months, 12 months now, with all the fear of no work and what are we going to do, and, you know, just being scared. What's sort of come out of it is now, I feel really brave. I don't care if I fuck up. Sorry, swearing. I do swear. I'll try not to. But yeah, I don't mind if I mess up or try something and it doesn't work. I feel quite up for just
trying things.
Yeah, having a go and like
Yeah.
it doesn't work. So yeah, I don't know. I don't want to stick to like the same old way of working.
I hear that. Well, before we kind of go into like the future,
before I spin off on
before we spin off into 2025, Jenny and I had like a chat at her studio the other day, and it was so much fun. So, I'm going to take you back a little bit because you, like I said, you produce now 3 books.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I have to say, you know, I am very grateful that this has happened. I never expected to make a book. It's a big deal. I know it is. So yeah, I am kind of amazed that I'm in this position, looking back and seeing 3 books. You know, when you've been an editorial photographer for so long, you know, you do a picture, you're so excited it gets in the magazine, and then you do a picture and it becomes the cover of a magazine, and you're just like, wow, I never knew I'd be able to do that. And then they're very quickly forgotten, editorial stuff. It's sort of like, then it's the next week, and then it's, you know, so to have a book of something that's like your own ideas, not a directed brief from a magazine or a brand or a picture editor or you know, to sell a film, or when you do a book and it's your own idea, it's so cool because you just believe in it 100%. You believe in what you're doing. It means everything to you, and you have that object at the end that's not going to be thrown at the end of the week. It goes to people's houses, it goes into libraries, it goes into collections, and it becomes a legacy of what you really believed in. It's kind of amazing, really. It still blows me away when I see people might show me a photograph on Instagram of the book in their house, or someone sent me a photo of the book in the bookshop in Montmartre in you know, in America.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh my god,
it's incredible. Yeah.
Out there, it's like your child has run away and
yeah, he's got no parents.
Yeah, how did that happen? And then, like, One Day Young got translated into Korean, and there it is with this beautiful kind of Korean font typeface. It's like, how did this even happen? It's kind of remarkable. But yeah, you do a book, that's your work, and then it has this other life because it has an audience, and it's their reaction to it, and them sharing it with other people, and then it's sort of, yeah, it's bizarre, really.
Well, Jenny, I want you to tell me a bit more about like the first project you did, which is One Day Young. Like, so for those of you who don't know about that book, her first major project, it was you basically photographing mothers and their babies within 24 hours of them being born and coming home. Like, just tell me like where this idea came from, and then, you know, how did you make it happen?
I kind of, I'd just had my second child, and obviously I was in that kind of world, and I didn't see visual imagery that represented that transition into motherhood that I understood from my own experience, the kind of the empowerment, the strength, the love, the joy, the kind of almost overwhelming positivity and strength that I felt. I didn't see in visual imagery. There didn't seem to be that dialogue about strength, the strength of women. It was often, I mean, I was very fearful of birth before I gave birth, because I just thought it was all like hospitals and pain, fear, you know, such a challenge. How are you ever going to survive, sort of thing. And actually, I felt the most empowered and strong I'd ever felt. And I was like, well, maybe if other women knew that was possible, they'd feel a lot braver and a lot more confident about the whole thing. And I just thought, well, maybe I could just produce images of people, portraits of people at that moment, showing that was a possibility, you know, just like add that to add that to the conversation. So I thought I'd do like 10. I thought, it can't be that hard to find people. I mean, I didn't know anyone that was pregnant. But I was like, yeah, I'm sure I can find people.
By the way, this is a really good lesson for someone. By the way, Jenny, this is a really good lesson for someone who is actually like thinking of starting a project, like how you just got started. So just, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I don't know whether it's the whole, you've just had a kid and I was feeling very empowered. There was no barriers. It was just like, I need to do this. People need to know, just get on with it. So I just got on with it. I just kind of, God, what was I doing? I was just going up to people and asking them like a mad person. And then I was like, okay, maybe just put leaflets up, but it's up to people if they're involved or not. So I put leaflets up everywhere saying, if you want to have a photograph taken the day you have a baby in your own house, just give me a call. And there was a picture and there was a phone number. You could pull it off and have a look at my website and see if it's, so you could see I was an actual photographer and not a crazy person. And yeah, people started emailing. Strangers started emailing. I mean, everyone I told I was going to do this project, and that's how I was going to find people, were just like, no one's
going to like reply to it.
No one's going to contact you. Why would anyone let you into their most intimate moment of their life, into their home? They don't know you. Why would anyone want to be photographed really tired and knackered and all this? And it's like, I think they will, because I know how I felt, and I think they will. And they did. And then I'd do a photograph and I'd post it up on, I didn't have Instagram then, but I'd post it up on my website. So then the next person who would pull off the little ticket, they'd see there was a new photo there, and that gallery grew quite quickly. It's kind of mad, but yeah, thinking about it. But yeah, people did get in contact.
But
so it grew and grew and grew, and people could see that actually these women didn't look the tiredest and the weakest they'd ever looked. They didn't look a mess. They didn't look like a lesser version of themselves. They looked strong and confident and positive, and you could see them in their own home. And you're like, really? In the first 24 hours, I could be home in my own clothes, with my own music on, with my own food, in my own place, not like frightened and still in hospital. I mean, I wasn't saying that was how it is for everyone. I was just offering this as an option. It is possible. I'm not faking these photos. These women look like this, unretouched, back in their own homes. And, you look at it and you think, oh, I can relate to that. Maybe I'll be okay. You immediately did. And I wanted those pictures to comfort women and give them support. And that whole kind of thing of an image doesn't lie, look into their face. This could be, if you're pregnant and you've got a month to go and you're looking at that face of someone who's safe and back at home, the baby's well, they're well. It's almost like a picture giving you a hug and going, come on, mate, you can do it. You can do it. And then, and I was very conscious that I wanted all women. So there'd be like an older woman who might have already had 3 kids, and there'd be a young woman who was, maybe 17, and then you could see all kinds of economic backgrounds. And it was just like trying to just say, it doesn't matter your situation in life. This is a leveler. This experience is a leveler, and whatever else you've got going on, whether you're a single mom or you've whatever you've got going on, it's going to be okay. So yeah, I think sort of when you become a mum, you really respect other women.
Yeah, so, I can imagine.
I need to do my part, and I need to let these girls know they're going to be okay. I mean, I was literally just telling people in the street, if I saw someone who's pregnant, I was like, you're going to be okay. You're going to be absolutely fine. And just like, being really physical. It sort of breaks down that barrier of strangers and me in my little world and then the rest of the world. And it's like suddenly that seemed to shift. I don't seem to have any barriers anymore. I'm just kind of hugging everyone, and I'll talk to anyone about anything. And that's probably still the case.
Well, I want to just pick up the lesson in that, by the way, like the lesson in that experience, because I experienced the same lesson in some of the projects that I've done, is that if you're kind of struggling about what you want to do a project on, or what you want to talk about in the world, whatever, think about actually what you're going through. And think about how you would have wanted to feel maybe if if there was more visibility about something that you're going through. That's usually like the best place to start. Like some people, it's I can't lose weight, or some people it's I lose too much weight, or some people it's like I have diabetes. Some people it's like it doesn't matter what it is. You can actually highlight something, and it can become like One Day Young. It can become like, for me, the Stranger series. It's incredible what you can do if you just tap into
it's funny, you're going to make your best work when you're doing work about something you truly believe in. There's, it sounds cheesy, but there's a bit more soul into it. It's not just a picture. You really believe in what you're doing, and it's not just a picture. There's a message. There's a something you're trying to communicate something to people with these images. And sometimes you don't know exactly what it is, but when you do it for 5 years, like I did with One Day Young, the meaning solidifies and it evolves as you're doing it. And it's like there was a core there was a meaning anyway in the beginning, but maybe I didn't truly understand why I really had to do this. But it built and it revealed itself. I don't know. I just had to do it. I had to do it. And I learned so much from it. I learned my practice of photography improved hugely, but I learned so much about myself. I learned how to communicate with people better. And I just realized that you can ask anyone. You can have a conversation with anyone, but as a photographer, you can ask anyone if they'd like to be involved in something, a project. They can only say no, and if they say no, that's fine. That's their own reasons. But 90% of the time, they probably say yes because they've probably never been asked before. They've probably never been listened to in that way. Or as the project grows, people can see what you're doing, and they can decide for themselves if that's something they want to be involved in. Do they have something to add to that? Do they have a story they want to share, or do they want to be part of that message that you're trying to put across? Because if people have enjoyed it, and particularly with that project, if they felt comforted by it, really, what do you want to do? You want to pass that on and comfort someone else. So it's sort of it definitely changed the way I worked and changed the way I lived as well.
Well, I just want to add to that, because honestly, you're just dropping some really great gems here. I hope people are picking it up.
I've forgotten anyone's listening. It's just
people are definitely listening. I've got a question from Rob in a second, which I'll definitely ask you in a second. But I really love that, because when we talk about things like your tenacity, you
throw in that word at me all the time. It's so funny.
Because give me a number. How many young mothers did you actually photograph for One Day Young after they'd just given birth?
150, 160.
150, 160 people. That's incredible.
Over 5 years.
Over 5 years. But then it's I think what it is that you were talking about, you just go and ask people, but then maybe if it wasn't something you were passionate about, maybe there'd be more hesitance from you actually asking.
You'd be cringing, wouldn't you? You'd be cringing, going, God, this is cringing. Why would anyone do this? I don't believe in it. But you really believe in it. Also, kind of the project sort of started asking people for me, because all I had to do was say, I'd really like you to have a look at this website and this project I'm doing. If you want to get involved, then contact me. And I just left it at that. I didn't go banging on some poor woman in the street, who's in the middle of something. So I'd literally just give them a postcard, or they'd have seen the leaflets and they'd take the number themselves. And then gradually, people start, if it's something people enjoy doing, then they sort of spread the word for you, because then they'll put their own post on. I suppose halfway through the project, I started to understand what Instagram was. So then that became a really brilliant way of sharing it, and sharing it further than my own little network, and the leaflets were sharing it further. But as people were posting their own pictures, it was reaching new audiences. And
but the thing is, it started with you, though. It started from this very genuine place of exploring something that you'd been.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't think I'd do 150 over 5 years. I thought I'll do 10 or I'll do 6, say. I didn't build it up as this massive thing I was going to embark on. I thought, I was used to doing weekend supplements, and you'd always do 6 to 8 case studies of something. So I was like, I'll do 6 or 8, something like that. That seemed manageable. And then I couldn't stop.
then you can stop. But I mean, thank God, because it's actually become this platform that you've kind of gone on to do Hackney Studios, which you then basically you photograph other artists in their kind of their studios and in their places of creation. And how many people did you photograph for that project?
I sort of stick to 150 seems to be my figure when I think I've got enough. But that one I was really, again, I think probably feeling a little bit lost, being being a mum and being a creative, and I wanted to understand the creative community around me, and I didn't know who they were. I work at home in a little office, and I didn't know how to reach people. So just started that project, and I got each artist to nominate the next because I wanted to go and meet them. So I just fancied, again, I do tend to choose things that I just want to do because I think it'd be like a fun conversation or a bit nosy or whatever. But yeah, I just got each artist to nominate the next. So I didn't choose anyone. Again, I didn't want that. Here's a list of artists in Hackney. Crash through them, get it in the garden.
It's almost like you want it to be more organic.
I just wanted it to be more organic. I wanted to be more surprised. I didn't want to repeat, everyone knows the kind of the established artists in Hackney. What's the point of going to photograph them? So I just wanted to know what was really going on. Who would people suggest if they only could suggest one person that they thought was, that they found really inspiring and incredible and they loved their work. I thought I'll probably find someone pretty interesting. Yeah. So I just gave them the option to nominate one person each. Sometimes it led to.
Let me ask you a question, Jenny. So basically, you did for 5 years. You did one day young. Yeah. Sorry, one day young. You did that for 5 years, and then when you went on to do Hackney Studios, what did you learn? What took you? What did you take from the first experience that helped you in the second experience?
I just thought, Jesus, if a woman is going to let me in her house an hour after because a lot of the times it was an hour or 2 hours after she had the baby. I mean, it was immediate. And I just thought, if these women will let me into their space, why do I need to worry about an artist letting me in their studio? I mean, it's going to be no problem, right? So I one day young was a lot harder. You couldn't book anyone in. You don't know when they're going to have a baby. You got no idea. So my calendar was just like Post-it notes of due dates. They could be 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after. They could be in hospital for days. You don't know what's going to go on. So it was hard to plan. I was just constantly, if I got a text, I had to go and leave whatever I was doing and immediately get there. Otherwise the daylight would go. So with Hackney Studios, it was just so much easier. You're going to have an interesting background because it's going to show that artist's practice is going to be all around them. There's going to be all these clues of, rather than a lot of people have boring houses, with the creatives in their studios, you've got a really interesting starting point. I wasn't choosing anybody. They were being nominated by their friend. So of course they'd do it. It wasn't like a cold call, me asking them to do it. Their friend would ask them if they wanted to do it, or someone that they admired or they'd worked with.
That's great.
So I was already in. The person could describe to them what the session would be like. So if they'd enjoyed it, they could go, you're going to have a great afternoon with Jen. It's really fun, relaxing, it's easygoing. And then, you get to, it's quite nice to be asked to nominate someone because you're celebrating somebody. Yes. It's a nice feeling to say, you really should go and do Josh. He's incredible. His poetry is amazing. And give some gratitude to that person. It's a nice gift to give somebody. And then they're all lining themselves up in this kind of family tree of respect and integrity.
Absolutely.
So it's a really nice thing to do. It's not like a photographer ringing you up and going, would you be part of my project? I'm doing artists in those studios and I've got this list that I'm working through, and it all feels a bit kind of mechanical.
But
you got to be in, you're in the party.
But I just want to add to that because I think there's another great lesson that you just kind of given to us. I think some people probably wouldn't know how organic that process can be if you do it in the right way, by actually asking people, I want to do 40 more of these, or I want to do a few more of these, and I'm looking for great people, inspiring people. Can you nominate someone? Someone's going to be like, yeah, I know someone who's amazing. And that buy-in or that kind of endorsement really opens doors for you. And before you know it, you've got 5 people wanting their picture taken next week, and you're like, okay, which one do I do? So I think that's a really great way of growing your project. Like just literally.
It's quite. I mean, there's advantages and disadvantages. You've got no control at all in your project that you've spent 5 years on. So if someone gives you someone who, you know, says really what you might think weak, or, you know, just not your kind of thing, they're completely altering the direction of that project, because then their nomination, you know, it's a thing to give over control to your subjects. But it's the way I wanted to do it. I wanted to be blindly led around and just offer, just to, like, you know, photographers, it can be very controlling who you photograph, how you put these things together. So it felt like a shift of power, to give the subject the power of, you know, their studio would just be them, and they could, you know, they could have changed it before I got there. So they were like in control of their portrait in a way, but also they were in control of the project and where it went next, because they were choosing where I was going next. So there was a real shift of power of how that, and, you know, I didn't know how that book was going to look, because I didn't choose anybody. I didn't nominate anyone. So yeah, it was interesting. It's been quite nice, actually. The one I've just done, the 100 years I've just done, is the first time I'm sort of choosing people. One Day Young, they came to me from the leaflets, and I never asked for a photograph. I didn't know what anyone looked like to the day I arrived at their house. There was no kind of, I didn't want to cast people on what they looked like. That wasn't the point. The point was they wanted to be part of that project. So anyone who contacted me, that was it, they're in. And with Hackney Studios, I had no choice, because the subjects were nominating the next person. So with 100 years, the first time I've pretty much chosen most of the people in the project. So I really enjoyed that.
Let me ask you something else, Jenny. So your work, you know, undoubtedly kind of it seems to be inspired by this part of the world that you are photographing so much in, you know, this kind of East London, Hackney area. Like, so, you know, like I said, Hackney Studios, One Day Young, it was all Hackney, and now the 100 years is also like Hackney based. Like, what is it about this part of London that you just seem to kind of be so inspired by? What is it that keeps you?
I mean, I am really inspired by where I live, definitely, and it's always felt like home to me. The minute I moved here 25 years ago, I immediately felt comfortable and really connected to the place, which is kind of weird when you first move in somewhere. But it does mean a lot to me. And I think I like investigating my own community and trying to understand where I live and where do I fit within it. So that's all really important. And obviously there is a huge, rich diversity of stories in London. It's a very transient place. People come and go, and sometimes, you know, like me, the glue sticks and they can't dream of ever going anywhere else, because it just feels so right. But it's not only that, you know, it's also the practicalities of, you know, I'm a mum and I'm working and I'm doing these projects completely self-funded. I can't afford to be traveling all over the world or up and down the country. Like, I haven't got the time, or I don't want to spend the time away from my kids, and I haven't got the money to fund that sort of work. So this, investigating my own community, as much as I'm really interested in it and I want to do it, it's a practical solution to making pictures, and I can still be here when the kids get back from school, you know.
Yeah, but you made a whole career out of it, which is so fascinating to me.
Yeah, I think people are probably getting a bit sick of it, but yeah, I think, you know, it's sort of, it's not that I'm obsessed with Hackney. I love Hackney, but I like photographing as an insider. I like being
interesting.
I'm not being voyeuristic in the same way as if I was photographing another community somewhere else. You know, this is my community. I live here, and I'm telling the stories of my neighbours, and I'm breaking down that separation and making connections with people that I live with. You know, it feels right to do that. I want to know who people are who live on my street and hang out in the park.
Yeah, but what's fascinating is that the world seems to want to know that too, and that's kind of really fascinating to me. Like, you know, you are like one of the most resourceful photographers I've met. When you did One Day Young, you told me you used to get on a bike. You'd wait for like someone to give birth, and they'd say, "Oh, we're home now," and you literally drop what you're doing, and you get on a bike and you go there. You know, and you seem to find, I mean, it's like we all have it around us. That's a great thing. We all have it within us, even, to kind of find art, find project inspiration everywhere around us. But then you're really making something of it. You're really finding something in your grassroots and creating something that the world is interested in reading and looking at, you know. So I find that really
people, isn't it? People, I'm only taking pictures of people, and people are infinitely interesting and infinitely unique wherever they're from, you know, wherever you find them. And I can just quite easily find a lot of very different people on my doorstep. I mean, I could literally go to every doorstep, I think, and I'd be fascinated. People are. And there's this mad honesty that comes when you photograph people. Once they relax, they just open up and talk to you. Yeah, and I love doing that. I love listening and finding out about people, which you don't get if you're just having a conversation. It's something about having the camera there as well. I don't know what happens. It's some mad magic.
Okay. I've got a question from Rob. Can you see that on the screen, Jenny?
Yeah. Favorite
says,
picture that you've taken?
What's your favorite picture that you've taken?
Whew. Crikey, there's so many for different reasons, you know, whether it's the story or whether it's, I mean, when I first had my first film I ever took was when I was volunteering in an orphanage in Romania. And some of those pictures, I probably only took like 10 films, 35 mil. But some of those pictures, when I look at them, I realize that something shifted in my head, that I understood the power of the image, and they were all black and white. And by stripping out color and stripping out everything and just having this square and the action that's going on in that square, I realized how powerful that could be.
Wow.
So some of those images I took when I was 17, I've got one on my office wall actually, and it's just a reminder that, like, even when you haven't got a clue what you're doing, you've got no skills, I hadn't been taught anything, you know, probably the exposures were shocking. I developed it myself, and I look at the film now with all the streaks all over it. But I don't know, it's like images can be so powerful and they can change the way of the world, you know. I don't know. So I mean that's important to me. Those pictures are important. Obviously, there's loads in One Day Young that are really important to me. Again, it was sort of seeing the power in a portrait, the power in one image, and that responsibility to the person in it, that you represent them in a really respectful way. God, just, you know, I could go on and on about so many stories, but I mean, you get so bored. Not so bored, but you know,
Rob loves your answers, so he wouldn't get bored. But he just commented, maybe Jenny has just had her next project idea.
Go back to Romania, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't imagine I'm doing another project on Hackney. In Hackney, I don't imagine that will happen, but who knows? It could do. I mean, I get fascinated by people all the time. I keep thinking about teenagers at the moment. I don't know why. So I don't know what I'm going to do next at all. But we'll see.
Well, so
it's not necessarily a Hackney-based thing, that's for sure.
Rob is giving us loads. He says maybe do a project about the neighbours, which I think you've already done.
Some of them are in 100 years. So Nellie, who's now 108, she was like one of the first ones I did. She was 105 at the time. So I didn't know that. And when I asked, I was like, oh, you're too old for this project. I was but yeah, so I have done some of the neighbours, and they were almost the inspiration, like just a few people that I would see, you know, every day. And I think, what's their story? What's going on in that house? How can I find out? And it's like, if I take their picture, I'll probably find out. But that's kind of, that's what I did. That is the basis. That is the beginning of 100 years. And then I was like, obviously, I can't just do one street. Let's just see who else is about. And who would they suggest and who would they nominate? Or maybe I could ask to do their son or their grandma. And, you know, it was how I started.
Definitely. But tell me, like, you must hit these walls. You must, when you do these 5-year projects, you must hit these walls. Like, where's the project going? Like, how do you power through those walls, those blocks in your creativity? Or maybe
you guys, you're the answer. I mean, my God, yeah, I do. I just think sometimes because it takes so long and it's so much work, and you're like, what am I doing? I've done it again. I've like trapped myself in this bloody project. It's taking years. It's so much work. It's no money. I can't afford to do it. What am I doing? Who cares? Who's going to look at these pictures? And then, you know, this time I had you guys at the photo book club going, no, I think you're onto something. You're nearly there. Keep going. And that was just like, God, it was at the time I really needed it.
Wow.
I really just thought, I can't do it anymore. Why am I doing it? Yeah, you lose direction, you lose faith. And things like Instagram help because you have an audience that reacts and is quite direct and will be, you know, people will say, I'm really enjoying this project. I'm really enjoying the stories you're telling, doing it. Can't wait to keep following and seeing how it evolves. So that kind of encouragement and the voices from out there, the ether, really helped. But yeah, a few times, even one of the neighbors said to me, I was talking to her and I was like, I just can't do it anymore. I was like 2 years into this one. I was like, I just can't do it anymore. And she was like, you've got to keep doing it. It's wonderful. And, you know, she gave me such, Claire, she's a retired primary school, retired teacher. But she gave me such a talking to, like a teacher. She's like, you've absolutely got to carry on with this. It's brilliant. It's wonderful. People need to see it. The stories you're telling are really important. And it was really funny being told in a teacherly voice, just to pull your socks up and get on with it. Stop moaning. You know, it's like, are you enjoying it? Yes. Are people enjoying it who are looking at it? Yes. So that's like, right, okay, stop moaning. So yeah, everyone needs a shove in the right direction sometimes. You do lose faith, especially when it takes 5 years or 4 years. It's like, it's a long time to keep that motivation going.
Yes. Yes.
I'm incredibly stubborn, and I don't like to fail. So if I've set myself a target, I mean, it's going to be something major if I ever stop something. You know, I'm kind of like quite, you say tenacious, I probably say dogged. Yeah, I don't give up on stuff.
But that's great because we're the beneficiaries of like learning more about, you know, this community and just the diversity within it. So I think thank you for kind of just going at it and not giving up. And you know, I think once again there's a lot of really cool lessons in what you're saying. By the way, if you have any questions for Jenny, please do put it in the comments and I'll read them out. Because yeah, it's that drive that, like, I mean, first of all, I think if you were to quit, you'd let down yourself first, you know, and then you're like, actually, I have accountability. There are people who have given their time.
Oh, God, yeah. Can you imagine? Just be like, oh yeah, I couldn't really be bothered to finish. I ran out of steam. It's like, that's not good enough.
That's not good enough.
You know, they've given you their time for the picture. They've opened up their heart and told you all kinds of things, and you've recorded it, and you promised. The reason they did that was because you were working on this big project. You can't give up. You've got to find a way. Especially, I suppose, with that one, because it was definitely going to be a book. With One Day Young, I never expected it to be a book, but I was just like not going to give up on that one. But yeah, I mean, people don't give up on stuff, really, do they?
I think a lot of people do, sadly. Like, they start writing a few sentences of that book they wanted to write, and then they 10 years later they haven't finished the first chapter. You know, it happens because life gets in the way, and then we rationalize why we didn't go back to it.
I think unfortunately, I mean, I have learned to be a bit more realistic with it now. knowing how long something takes that's meaningful to make. It's not quick. You can't, I can't anyway, I can't like race a huge project like that out in 6 months or a year. It does take a lot of time, but once you accept that and you're okay with that, then you can just do the process. Correct. And just you're not expecting something to be whipped out and in the shops and earn you loads of money. I understand book publishing now much more than I did before. It's not something that's going to earn you a lot of money. It's not something that can be really quick. Well, it can be depending on your project, but for me, it's not. So then I don't have to have that unrealistic expectation. I can just, chug along. I'll get there.
Well, the one thing that I like what you said before, you were saying that as I was doing One Day Young, I saw myself like developing. I saw my skills developing, and you just said another cool thing that I thought was really interesting. You said, how long it takes to create something meaningful. And that's really interesting because I think you as a creator, you actually have to go through certain phases in your project. Like you actually have to start from like, oh, this is a cool idea to, oh, this is helping people. Oh, how do I deliver it in the best way? How do I maybe upskill to really kind of like bring a more diversity into it or answer more questions? And I think as you go through that kind of that cycle within your own project, you get to a point where you're like, yeah, okay, now I've reached a point where I feel confident. I feel bold enough to really put it out there and it's going to make a difference. But it takes a while for you to really kind of, eke that out of that initial idea, Is
that a question? Or are you just talking? Is there a question in that? What am I going to say?
You can agree or disagree.
I was daydreaming then. What was the question in there, Artie?
Well, no, because I think it's it's important that you give it time. You give your project time because you're giving yourself time. You're giving yourself time to really find the meaning within it, so you can then give that to other people. So I think that's really important that obviously 6 months to a year you can create something. Hey, I did a whole project of in the summertime or something. You can do that.
Yeah, obviously, and some projects are really time sensitive, like Alice Tomlinson, her one in the summer, The Lost Summer. It had to be done in the summer of the pandemic of those kids that missed their prom, and it had to be then, not later when they'd moved on to the next stage. It was a moment in time. So her project was very focused and timely. So God, I need to think of something like that.
Alice
won an immediate and get on with it.
She won the Taylor Wessing Prize this year.
Yeah, and it's brilliant. It's a brilliant series. Yeah, but no, it would be great to think of something with a really short timeline.
Yeah, I know. Be like, bang, bang, another book.
Exactly. I mean, I'm really aware that as much as it's about obviously the series and the book is wonderful, and I'm really proud of it. I know that from every portrait, I have learned something or improved my photography. So it's that the gift of being. Of getting your camera out, your kit out regularly, and really oiling that machine of feeling really comfortable photographing people, really comfortable with your kit, so that you don't even know that your camera's there. It's just so part of what you do.
I can't do that enough.
It's a really wonderful kind of position to get to, and that's what those 3 projects have given me over the last 15 years. I can't, I'm not waiting for work. I'm constantly photographing people. So you're just, it just feels really, then photography and portrait taking feels really fluid. And then you take that all back to your commercial work. And when you're finally offered a job, you're so fluid with taking portraits.
Right.
You're rusty. You're not like, oh God, how does this bloody thing work? I haven't got it out of the bag for ages. You're constantly kind of thrown into an unknown situation of someone's house or workspace, or you arrive at their house. You've got to like judge the light, find the composition, keep them comfortable. It's all those skills of taking a portrait are constantly being rehearsed and practiced and fine-tuned. And that's been constantly for 15 years, doing my own projects and not just sitting there waiting. Whereas before, I have been a photographer for 25 years. The first 10 years, I was kind of just waiting for commissions and getting rusty in between. frustrated and, you know, not working on my own stuff. So it's, you know, it's been good for me, as well as the books. And I love the books, and I, you know, but it's like that constant
It's about, yeah, I mean, I love that, by the way, that repetition of like picking up your camera, shooting, problem solving. It's like, you know, you're right. It just, what's the word? It prepares you, it tones you up for when you do have to kind of do something a bit more serious with a bit more pressure on you. And you just feel like I speak this language so fluently already. But one thing I wanted to say to you is like, I want to ask you a question about this because it kind of ties in nicely to what you just said. When you go to someone's house and you haven't met them before, you're in someone's house for the first time, you're looking around, like, do you have a process of how you take the ordinary and make it extraordinary in your pictures?
No, it's not extraordinary. I mean, I think I like to sort of celebrate the normal when you walk in somewhere, and it's like, I would obviously treat anyone the same as I'd treat a celebrity or, you know, a big fancy studio, or, you know, just walking into someone's flat. You know, you're just going in, observing, listening, trying to figure out the light and the composition that you want, that you think will represent that person, and what background will suit them, and what will look best, and what will be flattering, and yeah, just figuring out the composition. My daughter's just crept in the room.
Hi, daughter.
Yeah, you say making the ordinary extraordinary. I think the thing is, things are ordinary, but you maybe don't pay them any attention. You're not really looking normally. Whereas when you're going into your portrait, you're taking the time to look. You're not just living, pushing through somewhere onto the next thing. When you're taking someone's portrait, you're kind of stopping time, observing the situation, observing the visual aesthetic of the room. You're listening to the person and what they're really saying, you know, rather than, you know what I mean, like really listening, giving them, not just like I do with my kids all the time, and they're like, "Mum, you're not listening." You're just saying, yeah. It's like, so not what I do to them. When you actually stop and give somebody some time, and give the room some time, and the location some time, it's just like everything just slows down, and that's what you're trying to get, and then you capture it. It's just like this hush kind of happens, which is probably what people usually look at in my pictures. So it all slows down, and it all becomes a bit poignant sometimes. I have to be careful that I don't just like have the same mood, because then it's not the kind of tone of that person. So now I sort of I try and be more aware of their vibe or their tone, and not just try and create a beautiful picture, which would be really still and that beautiful light coming in. It's like, you don't want to kill their vibe. So I have to kind of balance what I want aesthetically with keeping a bit of them in it.
That's really interesting.
A bit more than just a bit of them, but you know, that balance between aesthetic you want, but keeping them.
Of course, I mean, because all it is like, so you're the photographer, so you are the director. You know, you are basically creating something that you want to fit into something else that you're doing. I mean, you're creating a series, so you have a mind for, I'm creating a series. So there are, you know, so you are in your mind, you are editing a little bit. You're like, okay, well, maybe that's not, maybe we'll do that. You know,
it's great. You know, you think the most natural photographer. Or, you know, like I often thought that, you know, I wasn't manipulating anything. I wasn't telling people what to wear. I wasn't set dressing their room. I wasn't retouching their face. And I thought it was an authentic, natural portrait. But of course, you're manipulating everything, like you say. You know, the kind of conversation you're having with that person is changing their body language and the mood of them. The actual frame that you choose, whether it's them looking, whether they're laughing, or whether they're sort of got quite a confrontational gaze to you, or, you know, you're choosing the frame that everyone sees. So you've manipulated the vision of them, the version of them. So everything's manipulated. Or is manipulated too strong a word? But yeah, it's kind of like, it's authentic, but only authentic of that one tiny moment.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely with this project, because I could have the grid of 100 on the wall, I could think, well, I've had a bit of movement there, and that guy's laughing, and that one's in the park. So the next one, I really need inside and a bit quieter, or I really need someone to be looking straight at the camera. So then, yeah, there's those ways of directing, manipulating, whatever you want to call it, of you are like. Directing the series, the mood that you want to shift and change, and try and show all the kind of hues of human experience. You don't want 6 people in a row telling you a really sad story that's really traumatic. You've got to kind of come in and out and different emotions and different experiences.
Wow.
Stuck in a rut. So there's kind of a lot to juggle.
Yeah. I think the initial, like, we all love, as photographers, we love to take the act of taking photographs. That's probably like the most fun thing, right? But then what happens is that you then have to start really expanding on the experience that you want people to have when they consume your work. Like, that's the next phase. Like, okay, well, how will people actually consume the portraits, the stories? Like, how will they, you don't want to give them too much too early. You want to kind of, like I said, take them on this kind of this journey throughout the series. Now, one thing I want to ask you, because we're coming into our last few minutes here, and guys, if you have any questions for Jenny, this is the time to get them in. So please do. So someone just said, really good, had to dash. Oh, thank you so much for joining us. It says Facebook user, so you haven't registered, so I can't see your name, but thank you so much for the comment anyway. But yeah, I'm just, fascinated with 100 years. Like I said, we've talked about it a little bit, we've touched on it. You photograph everyone from in this Hackney area from 0 to 100 years old. What is the overall message, do you think, that you want people to take away from this book? Like, what do you want me to feel about whether it's needed?
Well, I think what I took from it, through the experience of doing it, I can't really tell what other people are going to get from it. I can't wait to know what people will get from it and what they feel about it, but I can't guess. But what I got from actually making it was, I just felt constantly challenged that I'd got people wrong, that I was misjudging people, I was misjudging ages. I was imagining that life was sort of like this if you were 7 years old. And then I'd speak to Jack, and his language and his understanding of his identity was just felt like it was more advanced than my understanding of my own identity. I just couldn't believe how he spoke about himself and what he felt. And I learned so much from that. It's like, oh my God, you don't judge young people because you've forgotten what it's like to be in that head. You don't know what it's like. What you should do is just listen to what he says, and then he'll tell you what it's like to be in his head. And the same with talking to someone who's in their 90s. I went there and I, did that weird thing we all do. I judged the situation, the house, the person, and I thought, this person is like this. And then I listened. And of course, I got it completely wrong. Like, Jesus, I don't think of myself as a judgmental person or someone who puts people in boxes, but we all do it. And then it stops us listening to people. So I hope it just challenges people's perception of what, that they think everyone, they're like that and they're like that. And it's bloody listen. Talk to people. Listen to people. It's fascinating. It's interesting. And you've probably... No one gets it right, really. Well, maybe they do. I don't. But yeah, no, I think that's what I found really, really interesting. That it doesn't seem to matter, especially about age. It doesn't seem to matter what age people are at all. They're just a person. It doesn't matter. The age is irrelevant.
Wow.
Say, and you could learn something from it. Whether they're way younger than you or way older than you, you'll probably find the conversation interesting if you give it a chance, I think. But I mean, that's about the conversations. That's not even about the photos.
Yeah.
But I don't know what to say about the photos, because that's someone else's job when they look at it. It's not really for me to say what people will get from the photos. I don't know.
I think
I enjoy them.
I think you just said, I think you put that so beautifully, by the way, like, because portraiture, you know, especially when you create a series like this, it really has this power to give you, I think it's a scope of, wow, how much do I really know about people, and how much is it preconception, how much is it just my impression of maybe someone else I've met from that group or something like that, and that I've now used to kind of like not necessarily taint, but to kind of like, you know, skew my view on all these other people. And I think your project, you're so right, like you talk to someone who's 7, 25, 80. What do you really know about someone and their life at that stage? And it's not even necessarily about the age, like you said. It's just about
no, not about the age. It's just their particular experience of life, what they're going through at the moment, what happened to them that morning. It does, you know, it might not be a like, it's not like it's a huge, might not be a conversation about huge trauma. It might just be their experience of the way that day is going. I don't know, but it's just reminded me to question myself and not just think stuff.
Wow, I love it.
You know, so just be more open. And again, like the other two projects, it's just kind of reaffirmed that I really enjoy people, which we've all been incredibly starved of. And yeah, human interaction. I was trying to nail it when I was writing the introduction for this book, trying to nail what it was I was trying to capture. It's really hard to put into words, you know, I'm not a writer, but I think there is something that I find when you have an interaction with another human being, a proper meaningful interaction, a conversation, spend some time, the portrait, you know, all of these things I've been doing with all these people. And it's like this mad energy. It's kind of fuel.
Yeah.
Have interactions. Maybe I don't know. It's a very human thing. We need interaction. It's nourishing.
Very nourishing.
I mean, I'll come back from shoot and I'm just buzzing on this kind of I've absorbed from the person I've been with, which you get when you're with friends, which you get when you're with strangers. But it's kind of like human beings need interaction with each other, and we can learn a lot from each other, and it's exciting and it's enjoyable, and makes your brain have crazy chemistry, buzzing around, because you don't know where the conversation's going, and anything they could say anything, and it could make you feel like this, it could make you feel like that. It's just adrenaline and the unknown, and it's like that's like a mad adventure you can have all the time.
All the time.
Sitting on the bus, you know. We've got the ability to have this mad adventure if you're willing to engage with people. So maybe that's what it's about. I don't know. I wish I'd nailed that a bit earlier. But maybe. Do you know what I've also found by doing talks about projects and talking to you guys now, it's often when you start to understand what it is you've been doing for 5 years. Because you have to blindly, automatically just do it. You have to try and explain what it is you're doing, and that's when you understand what it is you're doing. So maybe I don't even know yet, because this is probably the first talk about this project. So in 5 years, I might figure out what the hell I've been doing. Well, talked about it a bit more.
Well, it's been an incredible talk, Jenny, honestly. Like, and this book, I think, is just going to be so like enriching to people. And I think you're right. I think sometimes what we do is, as creators, we just have an idea and we want to create it, and we get this joy, this buzz from doing it. But then when we start to reflect, we realize that it's giving us something. It's giving us, it's inspiring us. It's allowing us to grow. And I think part of one of the, you know, the major human needs is to grow and to contribute. And I think when we do that, we just get this buzz and we don't know why. Then we start to realize, oh, I'm contributing. Oh, I'm growing from this. Oh, I'm maybe getting some significance from it. All these different things. And I think it's just something that is really going to inspire other people to, like you said, have these experiences with, you know, interact with people and find new experiences everywhere they go. So I want to say thank you so much for your time today and just sharing this wonderful project. You've put so much of your life into these projects. So I don't want to take that for granted. It's your life. It's time of your life.
This is it. Last book. So, not going to be any more.
But you say that now, but you know, the creative person might
You
want
never
that.
know. You never know.
But I also want to say, mention Rob. Rob has just said that I will be pre-ordering Jenny's book when when the book is out. Arte, absolutely, please do. Cam has said wonderful, inspiring talk. Thanks so much to you both. Thank you, Cam. Cam's an incredible kind of portrait headshot photographer as well. So you know, I'm sure that he got a lot from your talk. So thank you so much, Jenny. And so Jenny, where can we find you, and where can we kind of get the book? Where can we?
So the book, the pre-orders have just opened at Hoxton Mini Press on their website, or you can find a link to it on my own website, which is jennylewis.net, and there's a book section, and that just links you through to their site. And you could see other things that are going on to do with the project on Instagram, probably, which is @_JennyLewis_. I don't really tweet much. But I think Instagram's a good place to see what's going to happen next. Sometimes I tell you can scroll back and I tell loads of stories about the people in 100 years as I'm shooting it. And then there's some exciting things aren't quite signed off yet, which I'll be able to talk about quite soon. Sort of, how shall I word it? Sort of installations, public art to do with 100 years. Hopefully will be popping up.
Can't wait.
Not quite signed off yet, but I think it'll happen. I'll make it happen. No giving up.
You are the most tenacious photographer I know, so you will make it happen, and I can't wait to see it.
I have to now, don't I? Because I've said it.
You said it out loud, so accountability. Well, Jenny, thank you so much. Honestly, thank you for pouring so much into your work, your absolute heart into it. And I appreciate it. I know people on this chat also appreciate it because the work is just beautiful. And I hope we do this again at some point in the future.
Yeah, come back to the studio. We should do some portraits.
We should do it there next time in your studio. We'll do it next time.
Yeah, because then you can see everything in the background. And then we don't have to, yeah, that'd be nice.
Awesome. Guys, pre-order the book. It's amazing. And Jenny, thank you so much. All the best. And I will see you.
Thank you so much for inviting me along. Like I say, this is the first talk about 100 years, so it's all a bit fresh and I don't really know what I'm saying. So yeah, it's really not. I appreciate you inviting me along. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Cool. Thanks, guys. Good night. Bye.